We developed a number of really good strategic alliances, and that also provided some funding for us to roll out more kiosks. And we also sold some franchises as well to people in Australia. Lots of internal political machinations, if you like, with the people that I was doing business with, business partners, etc., that led me to taking a round the world trip taking some time out, taking a round the world trip with Dominique. You might recall, my now ex-partner, lovely partner at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back to Australia, I said to my business partner, no one's doing this overseas. I think by now we're looking at about 1997. No one's doing this overseas. We probably by that stage had maybe 200 kiosks, 200 or 300 kiosks out around Australia. And my business partner said to me, we're not ready to go overseas. And I said, well, I am. So you stick with Australia, and I'll take the rights to the UK and Europe, and I think the US. I think he kept Australia, New Zealand. And then we upped sticks, packed our bags. Dominique was pregnant with Josh, so we moved country, started a family, started a business, 17,000 kilometres away from home, 12,000 miles for the UK listeners or American listeners, and obviously had the concept and everything, but again, really had to start from scratch on a business that was already 3 years old and had a good reputation in Australia. And that came with its challenges because doing business in England with no network, Sydney's very well connected, and I knew quite a few people. It's like anywhere, I guess, you do have to have a good network. But yeah, we started from scratch and obviously built it up over over a handful of years that led to us connecting.
And I mean, it really was ahead of its time, wasn't it? You didn't see anything else like that at the time. I mean, hopefully there'll be people listening to this who don't remember a time before smartphones. Don't remember that you had to basically use dial-up phones, etc. And the sort of time period we're talking about, mobile phones were just becoming kind of popular, weren't they? It wasn't like everybody had a mobile phone at the time, and you couldn't go on the internet on it.
No, you couldn't go. It was WAP. I mean, if you remember, WAP, and everyone said, WAP is crap. Like WAP was sort of what was it? Something web access protocol. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was very clunky. And if you recall, we had machines at Victoria Station, Victoria Coach Station. So any sort of transit location, and Hotmail, thank God for Hotmail, because Hotmail was our killer app at the time. All the travelers that would come through London, all the international people that wanted to hop onto their Hotmail or check the sports scores or book a hotel or something. I think lastminute.com was just starting then as well. Lastminute.com was a bit of a darling, the .com darling, and it was all around that .com boom. Very similar sort of frothiness to the AI period that we're in now. We can talk more about that later. But yeah, it was when you look back now and you think about the convenience factor that it delivered to people that could just go up and hopefully if the machines were working and they hadn't frozen.
I managed to get up on time.
And
go out and make sure that they weren't just hung.
Yeah, that's right. And that, again, when I think back to just how much value a smartphone delivers now, how much accessibility. We'll forget about the negative effects of being connected all the time. But if you just think about the convenience factor of just having so much power in your hand, whereas before, as you say, that period, when we were launching these kiosks, 98 to about 2005, it was, smartphones, I think Samsung were coming out with their smartphones maybe around 2006, 2006, 2007, I think. So yeah, it was really ahead of its time at the time. It was a great idea.
First iPhone was 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So we're on
iPhone
15
1,
now.
which couldn't even do 3G.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, before that, I suppose mobile internet was quite niche, wasn't it? Still, really.
Sony. I think Sony came out. If you remember, I had this. I think it was a Sony Pocket phone or something. It was like a blue one, P900 or something. Sony was ahead of the game in terms of being able to get your internet on the move.
Yeah.
Obviously, well before the iPhone came out, as you say, like 2007, I think. But always had a fascination. Now, fast forward 20 odd years to Sydney Digital Marketing, very similar, still very much driven by online and digital, as it's now known. But it was the data. I was fascinated. If you remember, we were always trying to come up with a new homepage to load people onto, to either get them to spend another pound or another dollar.
Yeah.
But also fascinated with how we could make things, how we could track people's online interactions. And I guess that's what we do now, but more as an agency.
Yeah.
Doing that for other businesses.
I'm curious then, because I never really knew quite what happened with WebPoint and why it became, well, you sort of shut down WebPoint and started it again as Universal Kiosks, but then that didn't last very long. And then you ended up moving back to Australia. What actually happened?
So, look, good question. So I got approached. We had a backer come to WebPoint, very shrewd man, and he had a manufacturing business that was doing sort of sheet metal and things, and he saw the opportunity for us to manufacture our kiosks through his factory. But he was also dealing with another group who had some photo kiosks, like the PhotoMe ones. And he combined us into a group. He sort of rolled us up into a group. So we'd have photo kiosks and internet kiosks. And it became known as Universal Kiosks. I didn't particularly enjoy the dynamic of this new organization. And Dominique and I had, obviously Josh by that time was probably about 4 or 5, I think. Yeah. We had always planned on coming back to Australia. We'd only ever planned on going to the UK for 2 years, ended up staying there for 6. And so we just decided one day, look, it's not really happening here. Let's sell the house we had there in Hove, and we'll head on back to Australia. So pretty much, I had massive ambitions with taking WebPoint to the UK, and it was all around that .com boom. Thought we might either go for an IPO or we'd go for a trade sale. And I think I've got somewhere on my little DV tapes the recording of me talking to somebody at BT who was who was interested in picking us up.
Right.
And I put a price on the table, and that didn't happen. So it was just it was time for us to head home. It was time for us to start our life again in Sydney. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So it didn't really go anywhere after that.
Right. Yeah.
Very. So I was going to say it was a very, very labor-intensive business, as you remember. Machines were down, which would be bad from the landlord's perspective. If it was a rail track or BAA or Virgin or whoever it was, somebody would say, "Oh, that machine's always broken. Get rid of it." So it was very, very labor intensive. And whilst it was a profitable business, there wasn't the ability to scale without getting funding. And as I said, the guys that I did sort of do the roll up with, it didn't fit well, I guess, with where we were at on our life stage or life journey at that time.
Yeah.
So we had the opportunity to come home, so we took it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just interesting to hear the stories of businesses and how they rise and fall, etc.